Hi, everyone, and thank you for listening to and watching the Racket Quest podcast and video on our YouTube channel. So glad to have you here. Not really here, but I mean, here with us, sort of. Um, yeah, you're with us. Believe it or not, you actually are. So we're really glad to have you here. So it's been a very, very, very busy few weeks, and it's going to become even busier as the next few weeks go by. Thanksgiving is coming up soon, and Christmas and holidays, if you celebrate those holidays, are going to be coming up very soon. So it's going to be very, very busy for you and for us. So, but I just want to touch on some things that are sort of interesting, but they're a little bit lighter than typically we talk about. Not from our perspective, but I mean, in terms of just talking about things that are fresh in our minds, a couple of things do come to mind right quick. We have a lot of new clients um, that are word of mouth referrals, we will say, and typically they become a new client because they are trying to change something. They want to try something different, and we are sort of the 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 different the different place to go. Quite different, I believe, and other people believe. So if you want something different, normally we will come up, and we're glad to have you. Um, but what we see then are people that are coming in wanting to change from something they currently have. In some cases, they don't even know what they have. And in some cases, in most cases, we can figure it out and and talk to them in those real terms. Um, the surprising thing about it to me is that the player doesn't request more information about what is going into their rackets and why. The default material right now, I am sorry to say, is polyester. It is, it's ubiquitous. I mean, it's all over the place. People use it that may not want to use it, may not have a need for it, or in fact may be hurting from it, but they do not know even what it is, um, and why it's in there. So it takes time, which we're very, very happy to spend. That's what we do, to explain what they are currently using and try to extract from them what they want in return for an alternative. What do they really want? Um, Sometimes it's difficult for people to quantify what they want. And that's when we get into the numbers that we use. Our system, everything, about 80 numbers that we collect for every racket. And if we have a need to know what you feel on your volley, we know what that number would relate to on a worksheet. So if you can relate to us, well, my volley is not very good, and my racket is wobbling around, and so on and so forth. I'm not getting much stick on it. It's a little wimpy. So that gives us a clue what to do, and we will do it, and it will make a difference. But you need to know what we're talking about. That's what I mean. You go back to the original statement I made. A lot of people do not ask their racket stringers what they're getting and what it's going to do for them, other than what the racket stringer knows from um, peers, from players, from advertising, etc. Okay? We take all that into consideration and take it seriously, but we also do a lot of numbers in terms of testing ourselves. So we have some of the numbers that other people may or may not have or may not know they need them. Okay? It's very simple. It's sort of simple when you get right down to it. Do I need to know this? We need to know it. You may not need to know it as long as you can rely on somebody to do it right for you. And that's what we try to do. It's what we do. We do things right or we don't do them at all. Um, it's easy to say, sometimes not easy to do. Some of the things we hear coming back into us from our players that are new is that you can't use that. And I ask why. Well, because he said I can't use polyester. Um, and we will explain to them that the string you are using is not. However, the problem is if you look at a string from afar, and I'm talking afar from here to there, as someone would look at your string bed and say, ooh, no, that's polyester, you can't use that. That's as far as it goes, and that's not necessarily accurate. So what we need to do in that case that is explain the differences in the material. They're going to look a little different. They're going to be different, but a lot of people don't see that, can't see that, and don't care about it. But we cannot accept these kind of erroneous inputs from a coach, peer, stringer, guardian, whatever, that are incorrect and say, oh, you can't use that, you can't use this, okay? There needs to be an explanation as to why you cannot. And we have an explanation for why you cannot and why you can and why you would want to. And that's important. And that comes up with another point is that still, and it's hard to imagine, but we've been talking about this for years and years and years, and we use string bed stiffness as our metric, not reference tension, because the reference tension means nothing, except it's from your mouth to the stringer. Mr. Stringer, I would like to have this racket strung at 58 pounds. Yes, sir, we will do it. The machine is set at 58 pounds. The racket goes in. In most cases, they'll push a button and they'll do that 36 times or so, depending on what racket it is. And the racket will come out, and this is it. Okay, we did it at 58 pounds. The player may love it. Hopefully, they absolutely adore it, and so they come back to you for 58 pounds because you're going to do it hopefully the same way on the same equipment time after time after time after time. So consistency is key here. Okay? If it's consistent, then keep doing it. And I'll tell you what we even do, especially when it comes to um, strings that may not be suitable for the player. Very stiff strings, for example, polyester and some others. But if a player comes in new to us, has been using polyester, and unless they have a serious request for something, um, we would prefer that they return to the previous place where it was strung and get the same work done on it. And I'll tell you why. We do a lot of polyester. We do polyester for people um, all of the time, but typically we do it from a beginning point. We're not taking something that's been done and trying to duplicate it because we will not duplicate it. I'll tell you why we won't duplicate it. We won't duplicate it because the racket is under a great deal of stress and probably has changed shape a great deal. We will not do that, period. So in a case like someone comes in and says, well, you know, I've been using this polyester and Jimmy's been stringing it for me and I don't mind it so much, you know. I don't have a lot of pain. I'm not discomfortable, most of the time. Sometimes a little wrist stuff, but that sort of goes with the territory when you're playing tennis. That's the kind of thing then that we will go back to Jimmy. Okay, um, for that very reason, Jimmy's going to return to you the same feel that you've had before. Hopefully, if not, then you come back and see us. But we will not, we will not return the same feel that Jimmy did because of our equipment. The way we do things is just different. So keep that in mind when you are thinking about making a change. Um, and keep in mind when you think about making a change, what is the reference tension you have been asking for, and what did it return? And when I say what did it return, I mean what is the string bed stiffness? Period. With the string bed stiffness, we could know a lot. Without it, we just know that it was strung at 58 pounds on some machine by somebody. That's all we know. To get the feel that you want in a racket, we need to know the string bed stiffness, and we need to know the flexibility of the racket based on the real flex from about 10 centimeters in front of the butt cap to the center of percussion. That's the real stiffness, not from the end of the racket to the tip. You don't normally deflect the racket at the tip. You normally deflect it, you know, at the center of percussion. So there's a difference. So we know those two numbers. We can calculate the effective stiffness and get right there. If you come in with a racket that has a string in it that is not broken, and you say, I like this, it could be a little bit more tight, then that we have it. We can take the number right that moment in terms of string bed stiffness, and we can take the number of the racket flex. Okay? Done deal. And then we can try to come as close to that effective stiffness as we can. If it's way out of whack, then we'll try to convince you that you don't want to necessarily go there. But that's what I'm saying. From a player's perspective, you really need to know what the string bed stiffness is, regardless of what you tell Jimmy. Okay, tell Jimmy 58. You need to know what the string bed stiffness is, and you need to know that the string bed stiffness decreases over time. Some strings will decrease over a shorter period of time. Some will decrease over a longer period of time. And to put it very simply, that would be, if you visualize it, that would be linearity. In other words, from point zero to when you can't play with the string any longer, the straighter that line is, okay? Not like this. The straighter that line is, the more consistent the playability is going to be. So we need to know what string is going to be the most apt for your type of game and how you want to play it and how long the string must be playable for you. Some strings, the life is 6 hours, and if that's what you're using, and you dig it, then after 6 hours, you know it's time to redo it. Okay, most people don't, but that's another story for another time. Okay, so we'll talk about that sometime in the future. Um, but two things to know: we need to know string bed stiffness, and you need to know as a player, you need to know that the string bed stiffness decreases over time, hardly ever increases. Okay, we've had some cases with natural gut after a few hours of sitting will actually return a higher string bed stiffness. We also need to know that a hybrid configuration, if you're using polyester and a hybrid, thinking that you're going to have a softer string bed stiffness, depending on how that hybrid is formatted, you're not. You're going to have a stiffer string bed stiffness. So it's not going to do much for you in terms of helping your arm, wrist, shoulder, whatever, reason you went to a hybrid. A hybrid, for example, that will benefit you is a hybrid of natural gut, and if you want to still use polyester in the crosses. Okay. Natural gut is a totally unique string, and that's why we've said for years and years and years there needs to be a separate class for natural gut. We test every string exactly the same. Natural gut has some very, very, very unique properties. That's why it's almost impossible to duplicate it in terms of a viable tennis string. Monogut ZX Pro does it very closely with the polyether ether ketone material, but still, natural gut has a very, very, very unique curve. Okay, so yes, if you want to maximize the the usability of a hybrid, and you still want to have some polyester in the racket uh, for some reason, natural gut and the mains, polyester in the crosses. Okay, polyester will uh, decrease some of the softness of the uh, natural gut, which is not in and of itself an extremely soft string, even though that's sort of a misnomer when you talk about natural gut. It's the other properties that make it feel like it does, which is really terrific. So yes, a hybrid of natural gut and polyester, you will see a slight decrease in string bed stiffness. The other way around, every racket we do the string bed stiffness and we do a linearity test, and we can tell you that a hybrid of polyester in the mains and anything else is going to be softer than the natural gut. It's not going to play as well. It's not going to last as long, but it will, testing wise. Okay, and these are dynamic and static tests. It will be less, slightly less, not a huge amount, but slightly less. Okay, so when you think about doing a polyester, think about doing it the best way you possibly can, if that's why you're doing it, to maximize the comfort and the playability. All right. Um, Boy, we've gone a lot longer than I had expected to do with this. Um, Once we get talking about these kind of things, it's hard to stop. But I am going to stop, and I'm going to thank you again for listening. But keep in mind, string bed stiffness, and know that the string bed stiffness changes. So if you have a racket strung by Jimmy at 58, what is the string bed stiffness? And what is the string bed stiffness when you bring it in for a restringing? How much has it decreased? You need to know that. Okay? So we do that, and once we do a racket for you, we'll have that database, and we can help you through all of the rest of the profiles that you might need to think about. Okay? But anyway, if I don't talk to you before, please, please, please have a great, great Thanksgiving, and we will talk to you before the holidays get into full swing, which is very, very soon. Okay? Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening and watching, but not doing the same time and not driving. Okay? Bye-bye. Thank you.